Dover has always been the gateway to England, welcoming English men and women home from the wars, home from journeys on seas throughout a world once ruled by English ships. It is still thrilling to see the chalk-white cliffs, barely 20 miles from the French coast and the European continent. To the English, Dover always means coming home. To the visitor, it is an entranceway to a bejeweled and sceptred isle, Britannia. It was, for the most part, her island isolation, as well as her people's ability to master the seas around her, that helped forge England's staunchly independent character. On this sloping field, English and Norman blood mingled and ran into the soil. English defenders were defeated by William the Conqueror's invaders, and French language and culture became part of English history. You know, 1066 and all that. In the spring, the tranquility of the Sussex countryside is most evident and most satisfying. You don't find double-deckers only in London. They can hold up traffic almost anywhere in England. But it is the surrounding sea of the Channel that attracts the bravest of hearts. On this golf course, you most definitely want to keep the ball inbounds. The town of Eastbourne became a popular seaside resort in the mid-19th century. Even its amusement pier provided dignified entertainment. It is still known as the resort where the sea displays herself in strict British correctness. Somewhat less correct and dignified is nearby Brighton, by far the most popular resort on the Channel coast. This most exotic of royal palaces, built in Brighton by George IV, seems an unusual sight until you realise its Asian domes and minarets actually proclaimed England's dominance over a far-flung empire. The offshore Isle of Wight, once obviously attached to the mainland, became a popular holiday destination shortly after Queen Victoria chose the island as her country retreat. As on the nearby mainland, there are remnants of an ancient Roman presence built upon by later groups, all of whom, over time, merged into the people we now simply call the English. This palatial Isle of Wight residence is where Victoria, after the death of her beloved Prince Albert, passed most of her widowhood, almost 40 years. The good Queen died here in 1901. On the mainland near Southampton, it is the sea that shapes English life. But not even the best of sailors can avoid being left high and dry by the swiftly receding tides here. In 1620, the Mayflower left this historic port bound for America, as did the ill-fated Titanic centuries later. All the great English luxury liners, the Queen Mary and the two Queen Elizabeths, embarked from here. These days are no different. magnificent medieval cathedrals rise up unexpectedly on these Hampshire plains. They are solemn testaments in stone to the dedication and faith of those who built them almost 1,000 years ago. Here is yet another monument, so venerable it can be dated to the building of the pyramids in Egypt. Stonehenge remains a mystery. The magnificent water gardens at Stourhead are triumphs of both engineering and aesthetics. Whereas the main house, aristocratic as it may be, is somewhat less imaginative. For many, the approach to Longleat House is quite the most impressive of any in England. beware of entering the manicured maze without leaving a clear exit trail on the path behind you. If the English maze is a puzzlement, what in the world are we to make of this 2,000-year-old white horse, sculpted by revealing the chalky earth beneath the grass, and which can only be seen in its fullness by heavenly eyes? It doesn't seem like much now, a pile of stones to close in a field, but when a defensive wall was ordered built by the visiting Roman Emperor Hadrian in 122 AD, it crossed northern England from sea to sea. It established Britannia's northern border and kept out that wild, long-haired breed known as the Scots. Of course, the Scottish now claim they built it themselves to keep out the Romans, and most especially the English. You never know what you'll find in the skies over the Midlands. In this case, a daredevil in something called a 1942 tiger moth. Since he's up here gadding about, and we have a great deal to see on both coasts, let's hitch a ride. In the 18th century, the planning and construction of geometrical waterscapes became a passion of the rich. This garden is among the finest examples. After Henry VIII broke from papal Rome and established the Church of England, medieval abbeys such as this magnificent Benedictine church were brought to ruin. Even in this condition, though, a deeply spiritual essence remains. The cliffs of Bempton on the East Yorkshire coastline are home to the largest colony of seabirds in England. Almost 250,000 puffins, squaws and shearwaters nest on the cliff face. The bridge across the Hull estuary is the longest in Europe, second longest in the world. Almost a mile between its main towers. Founded by a Roman legion, overrun eventually by the Anglo-Saxons, and conquered by the Vikings in the 9th century, who named it Jorvik, York is a city that very much typifies England's turbulent history. The Irish Sea and the English West Coast are only about 80 miles from Yorkshire as the moth flies. And what more diverting Western destination could there possibly be than an English version of the Eiffel Tower? When English railways first began to transport vacationers from nearby Liverpool and the great industrial cities like Manchester and Leeds, Blackpool became England's largest, most colourful seaside resort. It still is. The waterfront has been the economic lifeblood of old Liverpool for the past 300 years, although these days she's known more as the birthplace of the Beatles than for her former mercantile glory. There has been a valiant attempt to gentrify this old seaport town. Queen Square remains the centre of renewed cultural activity, but for almost 150 years, the circular concert room at St. George's Hall was the centre of the city's great musical tradition. The Eleanor Rigby statue, located just blocks from here, is dedicated sadly to all the lonely people. Even these days, it is easy to be touched by the faded grandeur of Merseyside buildings that once housed the offices of the famed Cunard and White Star lines. Flying over southern Wales and southward across the Bristol Channel ultimately reveals the desolate splendour of Exmoor National Park. This is the unforgettable moor that is the setting for the novel Lorna Doone. This is the highest point on the moor. Not much to do when you get up here, really, except to put another stone on the pile and catch your breath. This red sandstone castle, relatively modest as these aristocratic fortifications go, seems to suit the stark Exmoor countryside perfectly. The village of Cheddar is home to the original inventors of England's most popular cheese. The locals can't imagine that tourists who flock here could be attracted by the famed Cheddar Gorge as well. The Wells Cathedral is especially well designed. It should have been. It was 350 years in the planning and building. The Romans built a spa resort here, with baths, a temple and a theatre. But the spa really became fashionably English in the 18th century, when anyone who was anyone came during the social season and took the waters. It's hard to see these elegant residencies and not imagine Jane Austen sitting in a Bath drawing room listening to conversations that will become typically pointed dialogue in her next novel. If it's horses you're interested in, then we're certainly in the right place. Newmarket. Here reside the finest thoroughbreds in the world, even if some Yanks in Lexington, Kentucky might want to wager differently. It's easy to tell from these very fashionable stables why horse racing is called the sport of kings. The flag is not the Union Jack, it is Old Glory. American men and women killed in World War II are buried here, in this Cambridgeshire cemetery. Cambridge, home to England's second oldest university, was founded partly by medieval scholars who simply wanted to escape the bustle of Oxford for the peace and quiet here. You don't have to be a Cambridge scholar to play cricket, but that would help if you really wanted to understand it. The rolling hills of the Upper Thames Valley. This is England at its most typical. The colour and style of the cottages, the manor houses, the neatly kept farms and fields. Everything here is simply said to have true Cotswold character. There were many similar villages along the River Avon, but only one is known internationally. And all because in this modest Stratford home was born William Shakespeare, the Bard of Avon, the literary genius whose work lives on in virtually every country and every language in the world. Now, since we are following the Thames River toward London town, it might be time to come back to Earth for a while and prepare to leave our tiger moth behind. The Duke of Marlborough was given this grand palace by Queen Anne in 1704 as a small token of her appreciation. She was apparently very grateful for his decisive defeat of the French army at Blenheim, Austria. We know it more recently as the birthplace of the Duke's illustrious descendant, Sir Winston Churchill. Situated on the north bank of the Thames, Oxford is of course a college town and has been for 800 years. The university emerged over time from a series of medieval monasteries. So many different ways of getting to London. There's the superb British rail system. We can go by auto, of course, if we remember to stay on the left. But we must avoid at all costs the infamous A1 interchange. We can even go by barge along the Thames canals. We might feel impelled to scull swiftly down the river, or even drift in sailboats along the shores of the winding Thames. Wimbledon happens to be on our way, and there's even a quite impressive tennis court open for us. The Thames, of course, will take us to and through London, the political and cultural capital of the United Kingdom, and one of the world's greatest financial centres. Although the name London is of Celtic origin, the city was the hub of a complex Roman road system. Actually, the first London Bridge was of Roman construction. Nowadays, the city presents an often startling mixture of the traditional and the ultramodern. Lord Forster, England's preeminent architect, designed this contemporary building, which Londoners laughingly call the erotic gherkin. But it is traditional London, with its history etched on its famous buildings, that draws tourists from all over the world. Big Ben, just to be perfectly clear, is the name of the bell, not its great tower. The band doesn't actually play Elgar's pomp and circumstance for the changing of the guard and the Horse Guards parade, but even without its stirring refrain, the crowds never fail to appear. This is only one impressive entrance to Hyde Park. The famous English passion for personal freedom that even welcomes eccentricity is often on display here, on the soapboxes of Speaker's Corner. If you lose your way, which is easy in labyrinthian London, try to find 221B Baker Street. Sherlock Holmes will be at your service. Unfortunately, his address is as fictional as he. It was here, at the old Covent Garden Market, where Professor Henry Higgins first set eyes on Eliza Doolittle. Now the great market halls have been converted to shops and boutiques for tourists. But wouldn't it be lovely if they could one day reappear? The watery Serpentine divides the popular Hyde Park from the more sedate and manicured Kensington Gardens. The site of Kensington Palace, where the much beloved Princess Diana once resided. Thames barge has finally arrived, right here in Regent's Park Canal, actually smack in the middle of the London Zoo. But the giraffes seem to take it all in stride. There are literally dozens of bridges across the Thames, most of which are far more functional than beautiful, with a notable exception of Tower Bridge, often mistaken for London Bridge. This, the royal prison and home of the crown jewels, is infamous in English history as the site of political intrigue, torture, and even murder. Richard III was reputed to have had his 2 young nephews, rightful claimants to the throne, slain here in the Tower. And just across the river, the incomparable Shakespeare staged English history plays and other immensely popular dramas to full houses in his Globe Theatre. William the Conqueror was crowned here on Christmas Day 1066. Westminster is where English kings and queens are coronated and where many are laid to rest. Virtually every great English literary figure is buried in the south transept, in the renowned Poets' Corner, the most visited section of the Great Abbey. After the Great Fire of 1666, which destroyed 80% of the city, Old St. Paul's was a sad ruin. The architect, Sir Christopher Wren, designed the new St. Paul's, and when it was finished, Londoners considered it an architectural masterpiece. Christopher Wren is buried within its walls. Now, having enjoyed and suffered through a long day as a typical London tourist, you owe yourself a treat. That's what shopping at Harrods is all about. Just east of London is Greenwich, most significant because when England ruled the waves and much of the world, all time was measured from this precise starting point. Here, at the Greenwich Meridian, it still is. As ships make their way down the Thames estuary toward open water, they pass very near Canterbury and its cathedral, on whose altar the martyr St. Thomas à Becket was murdered. Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales captured the characters on one medieval pilgrimage to the old cathedral and kept them alive forever. The English have always gone down to the sea in ships in order to explore the vast world that lies beyond the small island nation. But these days, there is a fast and efficient alternative, the Channel Tunnel, a railway tunnel that connects Folkestone, England to Calais, France. But how much more interesting and far more romantic to venture forth on the seas, as English men and women always have, knowing that at voyage end, the island nation that launched them, Britannia, will always be there, awaiting and welcoming their inevitable return.